This is a production of Cornell University.
Welcome to the podcast of Mann Library's Chats in the Stacks Book Talk series. In today's talk, originally presented at Mann Library on April 10th, 2008, in celebration of National Poetry Month in April, Frank Robinson, the director of the Herbert F. Johnson Museum of Art, reads a selection of his haiku and poems. This reading was held in conjunction with Mann's National Poetry Month exhibit, Never Mind the Pussycat, the ornithological art of Edward Lear.
Thank you, Janet, very much, and Howard as well. It's great to be here. I mean, certainly, this is the Mann Library is the ideal of what a liberal arts education should be, or part of a liberal arts university, because it does have that depth in one area, but at the same time it has wonderful breadth and thinks of the whole human being, the whole student. And so it's great to be here. You mentioned that I was director of the museum, and I think that a museum director writing poetry is like a dog dancing. The amazing thing is not that he does it well, but that he does it at all. So you can make up your own mind about that. What I will do, and I'll take just 30 minutes, I've timed it, what I'll do is I'll read from these three books, which were published at various times, but the first of the set of 4 or 5 poems that I'll read, I wrote in my teens and are from the 1950s. And then I'll read some from the 1960s when I was in my 20s. Then I had a hiatus of about 25 years when I didn't write, or at least didn't write poetry. Then I'll come back. The last 15 years, I'll come back. That will be the last part of it all. Anyway, here is a few poems, as I say, from the 1950s, 50 or so years ago. Dropping Sticks. Dropping sticks is a game the summer crows have learned to play, flying from May to September, one above the other. The higher lets his toy fall through the air to the other of the pair, who returns the favor. We gulp to see these evening acrobats climb so high, printed black against the sky above the blacker hills. They become absorbed in their little game. It seems so tame. One drops a stick, the other catches it. What more is there to say? Just that every day my heart drops with it through the empty air, till a strange and gay and capricious bird, unknown to men, catches that heart, and it soars again. The next one is called Powder. She carries such explosives in her purse that when she soothes my wounds, she makes them worse. What walls must I throw up, what guns poke out, to turn all her gathered armies to rout? How can I keep her dynamited grace from so sweetly exploding in my face? My father's snoring. This iceberg has its own foghorn and crashes slowly through the night after leaving the house intact, with the message, however slight, that the real terrors of the sea approach us only silently. At the wedding. At the wedding, they threw needles, not rice, a tiny shower of silver pricks. Some of them still stick to my skin and tinkle down when I comb my hair. My wife pinches them from the floor and puts them in a box. Someday, she whispers, and our daughter stares. One-ring circus. When she smiles, her lips perform with such grace, an acrobat does handsprings on her face. Her nose quivers like an elephant's trunk, stretching for peanuts or rooting in junk. A clown's arranged her cotton candy hair and made her a whole sideshow at the fair. As for lion tamers, you may surmise, jungle cats stalk behind her gumball eyes. When I had trouble sleeping, she would come and stretch out on me above the blankets and breathe in rhythm. Soon I'd go to sleep and feel at last from beneath the covers something huge pulling away from the bed, as if my own heartbeat were leaving me. The next poem is, or the last in this series, is very short, but it has two different voices, and I'll try to make the distinction between the two voices. Love and marriage. I don't want to get married. Beauty billows out from pavement, trees, and lighted rooms. Just yet, from great hollow caves and women with enormous limbs and empty cars waiting for lovers. You know what I mean? So that was in the 50s, Robert Frost and Richard Wilbur and other poets like that were really defined what it was to be a poet, for better or for worse. And that I certainly, in other words, the well-made poem, and I certainly was influenced by that. Then in the 60s, in my 20s, the dominant figure in American poetry was Robert Lowell, and his followers, W.D. Snodgrass and Anne Sexton, and they were practitioners of a kind of confessional poetry, very personal, in a way very liberating, because it offered direct access to your experience. And what I'd like to do is read two sections from a long series, a long sequence of poems about my father. I would have wished for him a forest death. The earth is softer with the things it touches, indifferent, and does not weep for its dead. Here, even his hiccups are terrifying. Too many people are always watching. This is a small stage for such a dying. We hold each other's hands, man in man. The touch of me makes him cry. He closes his eyes as if he were closing doors. He savors the strength of my handshake. And this is the last section of that sequence on my father. What help is there for those who are ready for neither loneliness nor affection? We should live in railway stations waiting to leave, where people never speak and never touch. The trains give a sense of something happening too strong for anyone to stop. There's nothing but the quiet, the beauty of nobody being cruel, nobody needing anyone else. One of the great themes in Europe, European art is the supper at Emmaus, and that refers to one of the posthumous appearances of Christ after his death, and this one is about, and the one at Emmaus is about two of his disciples who are walking to the town of Emmaus. Going to Emmaus. As we walked, we began to lose our faith. He had been gone so long, he had died, and the sun was warm. Why should we think and feel? Why should we be unhappy in the midst of all this beauty? As we talked, we remembered how heroic we were, how young we had been. But he had made us postpone our lives. Now it was time to begin. We talked until it was time to eat. We sat down at a table in the garden, and the owner came and served us. And we talked of our memories, and the sun went down, and we knew it was him. And this one is very short, just 5 lines. For John. The angel opens and closes his wings. He almost smothers the child. He almost takes away what he brings. The mother has new lines on her face. The angel had us all in his embrace. Let me see. I wrote that about 1968, and then for 25 years I earned a living, and I thought I didn't write any poetry for that quarter century, and I thought that part of my life was over. Then I came to Cornell, and for a variety of reasons, maybe the air in Cornell, I started to write again. And what I started to write again was haiku, which I'd always loved. If you don't know haiku, I strongly recommend you read Basho and Issa, the two great masters of haiku, who are two of the great poets of world literature. And they're 17 syllables long, and what I would do is write them in the course of a year, and then at the end of the year print them up and send them out as Christmas cards or holiday cards. So they go from summer to fall to winter to spring. The change of seasons is an important part of haiku. So they have no theme. They're scattered, they bounce around, and it's just my life from day to day. And some of them are funny, I hope. And so you have to sort of adjust between each haiku. This is the one from the year 2000, going, as I say, from summer to spring. Such a long drive to hear a few birds sing, to see some moss-covered rocks. Boulders in the field, like a flock of sheep, slowly, silently grazing. At night, my glasses on the table stare at me, a ghost of myself. What is that sound? A mosquito flies into my father's hearing aid. At the garage sale, they're selling everything except the children. Against all odds, who knows what dangers the evening primrose has survived? Birds settle on the spruce here and there, Christmas ornaments in August. As the sun goes down, the wind ruffles the trees, soft applause for the day. Autumn, and all the pretty girls are back, too young even for my son. A breeze passes through the tree like a flicker of memory on a face. Huddled on the line, the birds listen to 1,000 conversations. In winter, these old trees are like ballet dancers posing in the snow. It's enough to be the first to walk across a field after a snow. A dozen birds settle in the tree, waiting for me to go away. The sound of the stream beneath the snow is like an old poet reading. I stop to watch the little girl stroke the bronze lion outside the store. Quote, "What am I going to do for 5 minutes? She makes me feel young too." As the car swerves around me, the driver shouts, "Stop writing poetry." Overheard as I sat reading, "Have you found a place to sleep tonight?" I hope you can come with me as far as Greene or even Whitney Point. Our dog loves the spring, which she doesn't understand and doesn't need to. So that was the year 2000. Here's the year 2006. And I'll read 2007. Like sleeping walruses, the giant boulders sun themselves on the beach. Walking on the beach, dodging waves that began 1,000 miles away. A healthy dinner, eating my salad, reading my book of poems. The 2 old dogs going for a walk at either end of a long leash. Bulbous nose, collapsed cheeks, puffy eyes. I better stay at home today. I still dream that one day a deer will cross the field and eat from my hand. The maple tree changes from season to season. The pine tree never. A whole universe walks toward me, and then another, and another. Looking at my books, admiring them, almost as good as reading them. Walking on the beach, the FBI is right. Every footprint is different. Running for the plane, did I forget again to tell her something? Are we sad or happy, drinking from the river of forgetfulness? How nice to be an endangered species. Your one job is to survive. It's cold. Without this home to go to, I'd have to move to Florida. Except for the driver, the children are so small, the bus looks empty. The metronome of her breathing is the same as mine for a moment. Looking at the flowers in my wife's garden, what can I offer her? After the trip, going home, we remember who we were long ago. After the trip, going home, too much forgotten, too much remembered. A bat lives inside my parents' home. It's hard to sleep there anymore. Do it now, before you too become a handful of dust. Waking up, waiting for the morning when only one of us wakes up. Quote, for sale, what a privilege it would be to own these tangled weeds and trees. As we discuss the end of the world, she brushes a bee from her face. The waves rush toward the shore like children running toward their parents. And so this is the year 2007 that I sent out in December, so they're the most recent. The old woman, trying to make the child laugh, finally laughs herself. Two young deer, afraid of everything, fascinated by everything. Visiting my parents' cemetery, so crowded and so empty. I almost envy it, this pine tree growing out of my parents' grave. I thought they were different, my father and mother, but here they are. How irritating, all these hollyhocks bending over the sidewalk. The rabbit chases the squirrel, chases the robin across the road. A plane takes off. A crow flies into the next field, and the sun comes up. We both hold our breath, the rabbit and I, until I'm safely past her. Florida, who says that old age has anything to do with winter? Talking to women, warming my hands at the low fire of their beauty. I wish I could die like this, a leaf leaving the tree with no regrets. The leaf moves 6 inches on the street, slowly finding its proper place. The leaves fall quietly, like failed butterflies that never learned to fly. Somehow, When I was younger, there were fewer crows, and they were smaller. As the geese fly away, each of them finds his proper place in the V. Skeletons dancing in the breeze, snow here and there, and the rivers freeze. At the next table, a man on his cell phone arguing with his wife. Walking home, stepping into the same footprints I made an hour ago. At the reading, beautiful, brilliant women listening carefully. This tree is not thinking or pretending to think, but it is growing. Not exactly happy, but grateful for the absence of tragedy. Gentle and graceful, the lips of snow have almost closed above the brook. Nests fill up with snow, a kind of soft cement, preserving them for spring. A good lesson. The dog on 3 legs is having a wonderful time. This new book of poetry will take me months and months to understand. The pretty girl at the hotel counter is so rude to me. Old age. The snow left a mess behind, just in time for that second mess, called the spring. Is this a brook or just a ditch filled with water? Are there any rules? This landscape is so familiar to me now, it's become beautiful. Just looking, the deer in the lot next door graze among the for sale signs. In my Easter bunny suit, a tiny child offers me a carrot. Spring, and the deer have moved on. Like me, they have to go where the food is. I wake up to rain and go to sleep to rain and wake up to silence. What lessons we learn from rabbits and deer. Gray is the safest color. If only I'd stuck to it, I could have been a minor poet. Age 68, I'm happy to say. Still alive, still making mistakes. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cornell University. On the web at cornell.edu.